Taming Personal Knowledge Management with Obsidian and Dataview from Brian Meeker. Brian is a full stack engineer who occasionally leaves his basement in Indiana. Currently, he works as a senior engineer at Online Rewards and works mostly in Elixir these days, but has a past littered with a variety of technologies and platforms. Outside of work, Brian is a devoted father, an avid nerd, and a lover of metal. And I hope that is your most up to date bio, because I'm like definitely doubting myself right now. But thank you so much, Brian, for being here with us today. Oh, wait a minute. You are muted. I'll unmute you. I can't unmute you. You
I had muted
yourself.
myself earlier. Thank you, Bekah. Thanks everybody for showing up today. Yeah, like Bekah said, I'm going to talk about personal knowledge management with Obsidian and Dataview. Like she said, my name is Brian Meeker. I was a C# dev for a long time, recently switched to Elixir, and currently live in Indiana. So what is personal knowledge management? Wikipedia says that it's the process of collecting information that a person uses to gather, classify, store, search, retrieve, and share knowledge in their daily activities, and then the way in which these processes support work activities. But why would we want anything like that? For me personally, I've been a very organized note taker for over a decade now, but I always lacked a good way to review and aggregate those notes into something that was useful later. Way back in 2008, I started by using TiddlyWiki, which is a wiki stored in a single HTML file. You would open that file in your browser, make changes to it through forms, and it would just get saved back to the same HTML file. That worked fine for a while, but then browser security models changed and it didn't work so fine anymore to modify local files like that. After that, I moved to Evernote for over a decade, and that was fine and didn't get in my way. But then I tried using Notion at a new job in 2021, and I realized just how stagnant Evernote had become. I really like Notion, but its import from Evernote was completely broke. So enter Obsidian. Obsidian is an extensible personal knowledge management tool that just uses plain Markdown files on your machine. It supports metadata and backlinks to make it easy to connect ideas and notes together. I like this. I like being able to write notes just in Markdown on my machine, but I wasn't sold on it until I saw Dataview. Dataview is a plugin for Obsidian that allows you to query metadata in your notes to create static or dynamic views. I knew that I was switching to Obsidian the second I saw this. This was what I had been searching for a long time. Dataview itself supports 2 query syntaxes. This example here is from their docs. This is DQL, data query language. It looks a lot like SQL, and it's outputting that little table at the bottom. And then the examples that I'm going to show you are in Dataview.js. It's their JavaScript API to allow you to execute arbitrary JavaScript and do mostly the same things as DQL, but you can get a lot more flexible. The challenge in using a system like this is it's very much garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have well-organized metadata, you won't be able to write the queries you want. For the purposes of this talk right now, I'm just assuming that your data hygiene is impeccable, and we're not going to worry about that right now. So you could use several types of metadata with Dataview. First, Obsidian itself supports front matter, which is just a block of YAML at the beginning of each Markdown file, which we'll see an example of in a second. Dataview also adds support for inline fields and tasks, but I won't be showing that in any of these examples here. And then finally, there's some implicit metadata on each file, such as its name, folder, link, etc. So let's look through some examples. Here you can see an example of the results from a query that pulls in books I read in 2022 and lays them out in a series of tables by genre. And this is the front matter on one of the notes. This is just plain YAML. We got some tag, title, author, various pieces of metadata. And we query that through Dataview.js like this. Almost all these queries start with a call to dv.pages. That's just getting all the pages. But then we also want to filter it down by those that have the book tag and are in a folder called reading. Then we filter those to get those are either started or finished in 2022. And then we group them by genre. And then we iterate over each group and output a nice table like we saw back here. Let's take a look at another example. For the past couple of years, I've tried to write up a weekly work summary every Friday. These are useful to refer back to later for reviews, and they make it easy to communicate progress to the team. Recently, I started automating the data collection part of this. So as you can see here, there's different types of notes that I'm aggregating together, plus another section is sort of a catch-all for stuff that doesn't fit into the established categories. And then here you can see very simple front matter that I'm using for each of those. Daily notes and meetings, those are single day things. Issues can last over multiple days. And then this is an example query. It's very similar to the last one. The underlying date library is Luxon, if you're a JavaScript dev who's familiar with that. We define columns in the table, and we call DV pages again, and we do some filtering, just like we did before. Let's look at one more example. So years ago, I saw a talk that mentioned a team that tracked how they felt about Git commit messages. So each commit included a rating of how much the author liked it. And then this data could be aggregated to gauge how happy the team was. Dataview only supports lists and tables out of the box, but if we want something more visual, we can reach for another plugin called Obsidian Charts. And the good news with this is it's just a wrapper around chart.js. So if you already know how to use that, you're good to go. So I'm not doing that with commit messages, but I do keep daily notes at work. And in my metadata, I have a vibes column. So every single day, I get to do a vibe check, and it outputs into, at the end of the week, in my weekly summary, it is a chart like this. So the first part here is very similar to the other queries we've seen. We're just mapping each result to a 2-element array containing the day of the week and the vibes. And then we define a bar chart just like you would with chart.js. I've been doing this for a couple months now, which probably means it's time for me to start aggregating the data even more into some sort of trends. I haven't got that far yet, but it's on the to-do list. So the QR code here and the links are to a demo vault for Obsidian that has all the data that I used for this. And so you can pull it down yourself and see and play with all of these examples. I encourage you to give Obsidian and Dataview a try yourself. These examples are very simple and only scratch the surface of what is possible. There's a very vibrant online community of people doing absolutely ridiculous things with it. With that, thanks to everybody at VC who helps organize this and run the lightning talks, and I'm going to pass it back to Bekah.
Thanks so much, Brian. I apologize for the delay on that. I think I accidentally co-opted your slides for a second there, so sorry about that too.
It's fine.
I was trying to get ready and it just went live. So I really appreciate you sharing all of this stuff about Obsidian. I'm an Obsidian user and I know that I don't use it to its full potential. So anytime you talk about it, I'm like taking all of the notes. So thanks for sharing that with us and for being here today. And